Good morning. There was a really good comment on the last post I made, and I want to try to respond to it as best I can here. Basically, what the person was saying is there really any value in talking about how our culture is collapsing if you're not offering any suggestions about what to do? And I thought that was a great comment, and let me see if I can address it. First of all, because this all comes back to personal experience for me with my own collapse, when something is dying, when something is collapsing, when the realization is coming or life is showing you that something isn't working anymore and that change is not only essential, change is going to happen whether we want to or not, whether we want it to or not, there's a natural human tendency to resist that. No, I want this. I don't want this person to die. I don't want my culture to be collapsing. I don't want my situation to be changing. There's a natural tendency to resist. And we all do it. It's natural to our humanity, to something that we love and care about and perhaps are invested in, that we want to hold on to it. We don't want it to die. We don't want it to change. We don't want it to go away. We don't want it to collapse. And I never remember these things specifically, but there's, when they talk about the stages of grief, I think the first stage is denial. No, this isn't happening. This isn't happening. It can't be happening. I don't want it to be happening. We have to stop it. Why can't you stop it? Why isn't anybody stopping it? Just this denial. And then there's a kind of attempt to step in. Well, if something bad is about to happen, what can I do to stop it? What can I do to change it? But that's, in a way, that's just another aspect of the denial. It's a perfectly natural and healthy thing to say, what can I do to change this? What can I do to help facilitate this change? It can be from that place of fear. It can be just another way of denying the reality of what's happening. So the first thing I would say is that part of what needs to be done, if you can even call it something to be done, is just to face square up to the reality of what's happening. Just to face up to it. I had to face up to the reality that I had borrowed a phenomenal amount of money from lots of people I cared about and loved and wanted to do right by, and I had made a terrible set of mistakes, and it wasn't going to work out. And for a long time, there was nothing I could do about that. I tried. Well, if the film isn't going to work, I'll do something else. I'll write books. I'll come up with other ways to earn money so that I can pay people back. But it was all an attempt to run away from the gravity of simply facing, oh my God, what did I do? And I think we're at that moment in our country. Perhaps the antidote to national arrogance is a great national humbling, that we are not what we thought we were. We are not a shining light on a hill. We are a deeply compromised, conflicted culture, and all of our attempts to right this ship appear to just be making the ship list even farther and sink even faster. And one of the things that I would say is that when something is dying, there's a tendency, or in this case, when our culture is collapsing, there's a tendency to want to look to the culture that is collapsing for answers. And I don't think we can do that here. I see lots of good people doing good things, trying to, fight what's happening in the courts, to elect new people to the House and the Senate, to, political solutions, judicial solutions. But all of those attempts are within the very system that's collapsing. The legal system has never worked well as a way to resolve problems. I've been in the legal system. I can tell you that for a fact. Our political system, there's a segment of Republicans who want to get back to the good old days of the Republican Party. I lived through the good old days of the Republican Party, and it didn't look all that great to me. So we're looking for solutions to these problems in the same system that is, in fact, collapsing. And what I'm suggesting, this person was asking for suggestions. So one suggestion is to look where we begin to find answers and peace and resolution and a way forward, if there is such a thing, is when we begin to look inward, to find. I made a video here called The Strange Peace of Being Okay When Things Aren't Okay. And that's a real thing. There's a way of looking deeper within ourselves and finding our deeper truth, finding our true response to things, and realizing that even if this culture does die, even if it is dying, even if it is collapsing, even if a lot of horrible things are happening to people and it looks like that's accelerating, there is a place where all is well, even in the midst of that. And ironically, that place where all is well is exactly the place where we can begin to deal creatively and thoughtfully and lovingly with the collapse that's happening. But if we're just running around within the system, trying to fix the system, trying to prop it up, when I was a boy, there was a tourist trap in New Hampshire called the Old Man of the Mountain. When you drove by on the highway, there was a certain place that if you looked up at the mountain, there was a face of a cliff that looked very much like a kind of craggy old man. And it was a pretty cool thing. You could really see that it did look like a face. And then, of course, one day, since it's heavy, heavy rock on the side of a mountain and life does what it does, there was great panic because the Old Man of the Mountain was starting to collapse. Maybe his chin was falling off, or his nose. And people were up there drilling rods into the rock face and chaining up his chin and all these things, trying to keep Humpty together. And of course, eventually, the Old Man of the Mountain died. And something else takes its place. That's what happens when the old tree in our yard that we've loved, the beautiful sprawling oak tree or maple tree or whatever it is that we've sat under and had picnics under and climbed, and maybe we even fell in love under that tree. And of course we don't want that tree to die, but when that tree dies, something else will grow. So there's this finding the deeper peace within the chaos of something dying and something collapsing. And other things that can happen are people can make a real commitment. Again, this person was asking for practical, real suggestions. One thing that can be done is to make a real commitment to speaking truth in a culture where so much untruth is being passed off as policy and the way to go and the way to solve our problem. Simply speak truth. Speak truth. Speak truth. Speak your own truth. I'm not talking about absolute universal truth. I'm talking about, well, does it actually make sense? Are we actually thinking that a politician who lies habitually is going to be a good person to lead us out of a difficult situation? Speak truth. Speak truth. And as you're speaking truth, recognize that we're all doing the best we can. Every single one of us. The most destitute person, the most arrogant person, the greediest person, the most angry person, we're all doing the best we can. I remember when I was in a very, very difficult situation. I had blown up my life and I had made a terrible set of mistakes, almost impossible to understand set of mistakes, and I was feeling so foolish and so alone. And I won't go into the whole story now, but some particular detail of this foolishness of what I had done was about to come out publicly, and I had to tell my best friend because I hadn't told anyone. And I told him, and I was expecting him to say, "Man, how could you?" or "You're such an idiot," or whatever. And he just shook his head and he said, "Oh my God, I am so, so sorry that that happened to you." And I cried like a baby because even in the midst of my mistakes, someone was offering an understanding, a companionship, a pathway back to myself. So speak the truth and listen and see if you can find the commonalities, the places where we can agree on things. As I've said in other videos here, I'm not MAGA, I'm not progressive, I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican, I'm not any of those things, but I find truth in what everyone is saying. There are important contributions and understandings that every one of us brings to the table. And if we can actually get beyond our personal and our collective arrogance of thinking, I know the best way here, and the way forward is just for you all to fall in line and agree with me, and that's the only way we're going to get out of this crap. If we can all begin to bring some more to set aside or let this arrogance fall away and let a deeper humility begin to come through and say, well, you know what? This criticism that you've been making about liberals and liberal approaches to things, I can kind of understand what you're saying. I think I don't agree with everything that you're saying, but I think I can understand that. And can you hear me in what I'm saying about the problems with leaders, MAGA leaders and Senate Republicans and House Republicans who just won't seem to be able to tell the truth? How can that be a way forward? Can we begin to have these conversations? Can we begin to respect each other even in the midst of the chaos? I don't see that we'll be able to do that if we don't go deeper within ourselves first. If we don't find the place where we are okay and we will be okay, whatever happens. Then, from that place of greater peacefulness and greater connectedness with the truth of how life actually works, we can begin to make space for our fellow humans to sort out what is an unholy mess, what is so many layers of oppression and conditioning and history that are all have become such a tangle of lies and violence and hatred of each other and of ourselves. With that deeper understanding, with that connection to the true peace that lives inside of us all the time, we can begin to find pathways through what's happening in our culture. So don't discount the step of, and don't try to jump over the step. What I'm suggesting, don't try to jump over the step of, holy crap, this is such a mess. There's so much untruth here. There's so much violence. There's so much confusion. There's so much arrogance. There's so much false certainty. There's so much doubt. There's so many things that look so impossible. To just acknowledge the hardship of something is, in fact, the first step towards seeing and opening to the greater possibilities that exist and that are always right here, no matter what else might be happening. Thank you for listening. Please do feel free to comment. As I've said before, I'm terrible at doing this part of the process of asking people to like and subscribe and comment, but it does help. If you're enjoying this conversation, or even if you're not enjoying this conversation, please do let me know. Please do feel free to take time to comment, to like, subscribe, and I'll keep talking about this as best I can. Thank you for listening. See you again soon.